Don't like it? Go home. You should control your child's phone, not Silicon Valley. And a bear, what do bears do in the woods? Well, yes, that, but they do something else, and not always quite accurately. And we have a hilarious video coming up for you in today's show. Welcome to the Jay Sheldon Show. I'm that guy. Thank you for being here. Yes, we were not here yesterday. Had a few things happen. We couldn't get on the air. But anyway, we're back. We're live on Rumble and YouTube, and it's great to have you along for the ride. Thank you, folks, for joining us. Please subscribe and hit the follow button whatever platform you're watching on. And of course, our audio part gets sucked out and clean it up a little bit, and we send it up to all the Spotify and Apple iTunes podcast platforms. Look for us there. You'll find it. You can listen to it in the car while you're driving, whatever. So check it out, our audio podcast, which you can find on all the podcast platforms. All right. Well, we got a lot going on because it's a double-double from yesterday where it could be time for about a dozen alleged sex offenders and fraudsters to pack their bags and get the hell out. That is what the Trump administration is telling 17 U.S. citizens who've been accused of immigration fraud in an unprecedented denaturalization effort. What? Oh, yeah, it's intended to crack down on those people who came here, became naturalized citizens, and then thought, nobody can touch me. I'm going to go ahead and break the law. Well, guess what, pal? It don't work that way. DHS Secretary Markwayne Mullins said, citizenship is a privilege, and if you abuse it, you very well might lose it. Here's from his X account. American citizenship is a privilege and it must be earned honestly. If you come here to break our laws and lie in your immigration proceedings, you forfeit that privilege. DHS will not stand by idly while Americans are harmed, including sex offenders. I love this guy. We will continue to use every lawful avenue to denaturalize and remove aliens. Bye. 17 people accused of obtaining their citizenship fraudulently and committing other very serious offenses. Some of the 17 targeted in the latest denaturalization campaign convicted of violent crimes and serious crimes, including sex offenses against children. Oh, you crossed the line, buddy. Others convicted of fraud crimes, accused of committing immigration fraud. Oh, this is a nasty bunch. They are getting exactly what they deserve. In federal court complaints filed across the country in recent days, Justice Department officials argue the individuals concealed their criminal activity when they applied for U.S. citizenship or were otherwise not eligible to be naturalized, including because they lacked good moral character, which, yes, is one of the requirements. Sorry, not sorry. The naturalization process is what it is. This is the Department of Justice, has filed denaturalization proceedings in U.S. district courts against 17 individuals. When criminal aliens exploit the naturalization process by breaking the law, there are consequences. Criminal aliens are lying about their past crimes, including drug dealers, sexual predators, and fraudsters. Gaining U.S. citizenship is a privilege. Of course it is. And under the steadfast leadership of President Trump, the Justice Department maintains a zero-tolerance policy for abusing the process. That's the acting AG, Mr. Blanche. He says we continue to work around the clock with our interagency partners to make sure that U.S. citizenship is granted only to those who truly deserve it. Amen. Amen. Preach, brother. Trump team has expanded the use of the denaturalization process. The efforts to denaturalize citizens very usually overwhelmingly successful. The DOJ reports a 95% success rate. Holy bananas. Trump admin's effort expected to be the largest in history, surpassing the previous high of 11 cases. In this case, there are 17. It's probably should be higher, and hopefully it will be. Now, no doubt, the lefties are going to be fighting for the group, one of whom allegedly sexually abused his daughter, another accused of receiving explicit images of kids, several allegedly committed financial crimes. The list goes on and on and on. Although you're not automatically deported if you are denaturalized, you no longer get protected from deportation. Your ass is on the line. DHS and ICE get notified of your new status. Oh boy. If you have been accused of fraud, criminal conduct, or if you're deemed a security risk, expect to wave bye-bye to the U.S. as you take a one-way flight out of here. See ya. Won't miss ya. Unless, of course, Senator Chris Van Hollen, the Democrat from Maryland, who wants to have maybe a margarita with you. That's entirely possible. 17 so far. The list goes on. I am loving it. Oh, man. I'm telling you. But it's not all good news. I can't say his name without laughing because he's a moron. Hakeem Jeffries filed a completely laughable butthurt feelings report on Trump because he attended the Knicks game. He got completely dunked for that. And I mean completely dunked. This is such a joke. You know, Democrats are used to invoking the Democrat privilege like a get-out-of-jail-free card when they're ever caught saying or doing something they shouldn't have been doing. So not exactly a surprise that they use exactly similar tactics when it comes to acting like their own celebrities, professional sports players, events like that. For a whole lot of years, the Democrats have used their connection to the Hollywood elite and pro sports with wild abandon to try and make themselves appear, hey, I'm hip. Look at me. I'm friends with this guy. Relatable. It's another image they try and project, which they're not. They paint the GOP as being out of touch. And even as Republicans are making inroads and well-known figures in both industries, help get the word out about conservative ideals, God forbid, how great America is, which it is. Well, Trump's arrival on the scene in Republican politics was an especially big game changer with this effort. Trump using professional relationships he built with cultural and celebrity sports icons over the decades as a very successful businessman and then president to help usher in the whole MAGA agenda and bring along disabled Americans, disaffected Americans, I should say, traditionally vote for Democrats in that process. So, with all this in mind, no surprise at all to see Democrats like Hakeem Jeffries fuming over Trump's attending Game 3 of the NBA Finals between the San Antonio Spurs and the New York Knicks Monday night, which played at Madison Square Garden. During a congressional presser earlier in the day, Jeffries, decked out in a pale pink Knicks hat, a seersucker suit, vented his frustrations, questioning whether Trump, a longtime Knicks fan, by the way, even knew enough about the team to qualify making any kind of comments. Hang on. Okay, I've got this idiot here. I'll play it for you. Here we go. Listen to this goofball.
But it also is not clear to me that Donald Trump is a big Knicks fan. I mean, does this guy even know the difference between Karl Rove and Karl Anthony Towns? I don't think so.
Well, guess what, hockey baby? You would be wrong, as indicated by this quick little piece of videotape.
Who's your favorite Knick?
Well, Brunson's fantastic. Towns is fantastic. They just have a great team.
Who's your favorite Knick?
Well, Brunson's fantastic. Towns is fantastic. They just have a great team.
They just have a great team. And apparently, he does know the difference. Seconds later, however, we got to the heart of what really irked Mr. Jeffries about Trump's attendance. He would be bringing the MAGA energy with him, and of course, we can't have that. That can't happen. Really.
You're a big Knicks fan, obviously. President Trump is going to the game tonight. Your reaction to that?
So I've had a few things to say about Donald Trump going to the Knicks game. And, you know, at this point, it's game day. And I think Knicks fans just want to enjoy Game 3, the first home game that we've had in 27 years. But it also is not clear to me that Donald Trump is a big Knicks fan. I mean, does this guy even know the difference between Karl Rove and Karl Anthony Towns? I don't think so. He's just injecting himself into the NBA Finals because he always has to bring the MAGA circus into town.
Yeah, okay, hockey baby. That's not going to work either. Unbelievable. Now, if this were Barack Obama or some other big-name Democrat icon, Jeffries would have made sure they rolled out the red carpet, cleared it, pressed it, rolled it out, royal robes, whatever beverages, food, pillows, other comfy things would be provided for everybody. But because it's Trump, an actual die-hard Knicks fan, all of a sudden a needless and disruptive distraction that'll take away from the game. And just to clear up any media/Democrat-driven misunderstandings, the idea did not just pop into Trump's head in the last minute to attend the game. He was actually invited. By who? The club owner. Yeah. According to the Knicks, it wasn't Trump's fault that a watch party outside Madison Garden was canceled. The Knicks are up 2-0 on the season, best-of-7 series. Game time, broadcast on ABC. I think it's already probably happened. Anyway, it's laughable. We don't care, Hakeem. We really, really, really do not care. Here we go again. Here's why, in case you're wondering. The criminal case against the suspect in the fatal beating of the Trump house. You remember that? That poor old guy who died because he got beaten because he has his whole house decked out in Trump paraphernalia? Well, that criminal case has been put on hold. We told you about this story a while ago. This elderly Trump supporter brutally beaten outside his Escondido home, known locally as the Trump house, because of the huge number of Trump signs and American flags that he had displayed outside of his house. 69-year-old Kerry Sharon, reportedly described as a U.S. veteran. Unbelievable. There is a photograph on X that shows him in the hospital after having been beaten. I don't want to put it on the air here because it's too disturbing. Trust me, it is horrific. Update, his wife, Maria Garcia, posted that her husband was in the ICU and there was no hope. Mr. Sharon is not expected to live. Sadly, she was right. Mr. Sharon died 4 days after the injuries sustained in this violent attack. The suspect, 32-year-old Navy veteran Thomas Caleb Butler, arrested a few blocks away after he ran from the scene. Speculation swirling the attack was politically motivated. A person speaking to San Diego's ABC News 10 said he knew both Sharon and Butler and believes it was mental health issues that prompted the attack, not politics. Now, police have not released a motive for the attack, although the home's prominent political display has raised a whole lot of questions about that. Joseph says he became friends with Sharon and his wife through conversations while walking past the house, doesn't believe the attack was politically motivated. He said he knows Butler, describes him as a known transient with mental health issues. He lives where he can and is randomly yelling things into the air. Documents filed in San Diego Superior Court by Butler's estranged wife last year describe Butler as a veteran suffering from PSD and allege a history of all kinds of different violent behavior. The case, for some odd reason, now is on hold. You ready? Because of a mental competency hearing of Butler. He's facing murder charges. Criminal proceedings were paused last Friday for a man accused of beating to death the owner of the Escondido home. Thomas Caleb Butler, 32, slated to be arraigned for murder charges in Vista Superior Court Friday, and instead the judge suspended the case until a court-appointed psychiatrist can examine and evaluate Butler and determine whether he is able to understand the proceedings he faces. Here we effing go again. This is the second time that supporters of the victim have left the courthouse completely frustrated. Butler, the scumbag, has been in jail without bail since the attack May 30th. Supposed to be in court Wednesday, refused to attend the hearing. How do you refuse? Drag his ass in there in chains. You don't refuse to attend. You're in custody, pal. But of course, California, they rescheduled it for Friday. And he wasn't there Friday either. Meanwhile, the community has rallied around the victim and his wife, holding rallies, showing up for hearings, even started a GoFundMe, which so far has raised nearly $61,000. Wow. If they declare this guy is mentally unable to understand the charges against him. Oh, man. Here we freaking go again. All right. Let's talk to you about the best coffee on the planet. I happen to have a cup right here. You think I'm branded enough? You think? Over there, I've got a little logo right there. I've got my Mike flag. I've got my Jesus is my Savior, Trump is my President shirt on. And I have my Jay Sheldon Show mug. Maybe I need more branding. Yeah, I don't think so. Anyway, what I'm talking about is Blackout Coffee, of course, the best coffee on the planet. Blackout Coffee, it's all done in-house, sourcing premium specialty grade coffee beans. They are all grown in the best soil, perfect altitude, correct time of year. They work with local co-ops and American farmers to grow these beans, and they only roast them after you place your order. Then they are shipped out with lightning speed, 24 to 48 hours after you place your order. Blackout Coffee, the link is in our show notes, our description down there. Just pull that description thing down, and you'll see it drop. There is a link there for Blackout Coffee. Use that link and you will get 20% off your first order. They've got all kinds of amazing flavored coffees, which are unbelievably good. They've got decaf, cold brew, instant, coffee pods. They've got it covered. And if I know a lot of people may not have the ability to grind your own beans. If you do, great. If you don't, not a problem. On all of their popular roasts, you can option, a little pull-down bar gives you the option to actually have them grind them for you. So you get fresh ground, fresh roasted beans at your doorstep. Takes less than a week. And it is honestly, it's just the best coffee ever. Always strong, bold, never ever bitter. You know, sometimes those coffees have that bitter undertone. It's just like, yeah. Never. Blackout Coffee, not one ever. You'll never find a bitter coffee. Always strong, bold, full-flavored Blackout Coffee. Thank you, John Santos and the gang at Blackout Coffee. They are a great group of people over there. They've been supporting this show for years now, and we really do appreciate you being here and helping out to make the show go. All right. Thanks, Blackout Coffee, one of our great sponsors here. Please do try a single bag. Use that code J20. You get yourself 20% off your first order. And they've always got sales, too, going on. Always got sales. 4th of July is coming up. You can bet your bippy they're going to have a major sale. All right, Todd Blanche, DOJ should mean accountability for the media's Russia hoax and so much more. Something that the dying news media is likely to do, they're going to frame Trump's concerns with the Justice Department as though they're animated solely by vendetta, just some personal bitch that Trump has, rather than legitimate matters of law and order, which is how it's supposed to be. They affect everybody. Look at how they've reacted to the president nominating Todd Blanche to serve permanently as the full-time Attorney General, not acting. Times said Trump was elevating a trusted loyalist who has proved willing to execute the president's demands. The Washington Post, citing, I love this, unnamed critics. You know, these newspapers should not be allowed to be using unnamed sources. What is it? You know, your neighbor's friends, best friend's daughter's manicurist's son? Unnamed sources means basically absolutely nothing. Anyway, their Washington Post said, Blanche has abandoned standard Justice Department norms and continues to operate as if he were working as Trump's personal lawyer. CNN apparently hunted down those very same unnamed critics and said Blanche, as the current acting attorney general, quote, has effectuated the president's personal and political agenda to use the Justice Department as his own attack mechanism. Which, basically is another way of saying that Blanche is likely to pursue objectives at odds with what the dying media would prefer. Hey, mainstream corporate media bullshit. Don't you guys know, A, nobody watches you, and B, you are just digging a bigger hole and nailing another nail into that coffin which has about one nail left? Normally, namely, accountability for past wrongdoings deserve to be righted, of course. And with many of those wrongs, the media were complicit, most notably the Russian collusion hoax that they perpetrated along with the very same Justice Department that Blanche is now set to oversee. Of course, they'll want to undermine his role. They're going to characterize him as an upholder of the law instead, or as rather than a servant at the president's petty whims. This dying corporate media pretend that Trump takes some sort of interest in the DOJ because he intends to settle some personal scores. So that's why he nominated his former personal attorney for the job. Folks, that's not even close, not even in the same ballpark. True, the president certainly does want justice for himself, I'm sure on a personal level, but also he is the president, and by definition, he represents the country. That's all of us, you and me. It's a matter of historical record that this president and his political allies, plus a whole lot of his voters, aggressively and unfairly targeted the Justice Department. The DOJ set Trump up when Obama was in office, illegally spied on his campaign, leaked the investigation to the media with the intent, of course, of hurting Trump in the worst ways he could politically. And he and a lot of others all harassed all throughout the Biden years for, among other things, exercising their First Amendment right to question the 2020 election. Now, accounting for those injustices would understandably upset the dying corporate media. Help me. It ain't gonna work. We don't care. Given they assisted in perpetrating the hoaxes, to uncover just how far these efforts went, undoubtedly demonstrate even more corruption on behalf of the New York Times, the Washington Post, CNN, the list goes on and on. You know the usual suspects. But they don't want that. That's why they will oppose Todd Blanche every chance they get. Absolutely insane. Great article. Love these guys. This comes from The Federalist, which is a great news site. If you want to check them out, do that. It's at thefederalist.com. And the article it says, that's you I'm talking to, you should control your child's phone, not Silicon Valley. And boy, ain't that the truth. Big tech has lawyers, they got lobbyists, and absolutely limitless resources. I mean, can you imagine where you'd never have to say, I wonder how much that is? Because you just have so much money, it doesn't matter. Well, that is big tech. You as a parent, basically you got the law, the Constitution, and the truth. And frankly, that should be enough. Somewhere in America this morning, parents are discovering something on their child's phone that they never approved. Likely you never even knew it existed. You never would have allowed it. And yet, there it is. An app downloaded without permission. Purchase made without consent. Digital door opened up to a world that no child ever should be allowed to enter alone. Ever. That happens millions of times every day. Big tech has spent years making sure parents cannot stop this barrage. That is precisely what, at this very moment, Texas is trying to change, and why the American Center for Law and Justice, ACLJ, is fighting to help them succeed. The Texas App Store Accountability Act, which is a Senate bill, 2420 if you're in Texas, does something simple. It's so simple, it should just be non-thinkable. It should be in everybody's act. It requires app stores to get the parents' consent before a minor can download an app or make an in-app purchase. Not a government censor deciding what children can see, not some bureaucrat overriding family values, your family values. Just a parent battling to stay in the loop with a say in their own child's life. Gee, wouldn't that be nice? The tech industry's response? Litigation. Of course, that is what they do. Apple and Google-backed trade group has gone to federal court to strike down the law, arguing it violates the First Amendment. It's a rather remarkable claim that requiring a corporation to ask parents' permission before they sell some kid, somehow that constitutes censorship? It's my child. Shut up and go away. If he's gonna or she's gonna download something, you're gonna get my permission first, pal. That's how it works. When a child downloads an app, he isn't simply reading a book. He's entering a legal relationship. You understand that? He agrees to the terms of service that have been drafted by armies of lawyers. He consents to data harvesting, opens the door to in-app purchases that can run into hundreds of dollars. These are commercial transactions, and for centuries, American law has held that minors cannot enter binding commercial agreements without parental involvement. So any of these agreements are null and void because they were agreed to by a child. Children can't buy alcohol. They can't sign contracts. They can't make major medical decisions alone. SB 2420 simply applies the same common sense to the app market. And what makes big tech's opposition so striking is that it reveals a ton about their business model. These platforms are not neutral conduits for expression. They are engineered deliberately, systematically to maximize engagement. Could use a little bit on this show, especially among young users. The algorithms that keep a 13-year-old scrolling at midnight, all of those were designed by some of the brightest minds in the world, optimized with billions of dollars and mountains of behavioral data for exactly that purpose. Even the U.S. Surgeon General called social media a profound risk to youth mental health. Rates of anxiety, depression, suicidal ideation among teenagers have climbed exactly in lockstep with smartphone adoption. Same thing. That is not a coincidence. That is a consequence. And yet, when states try to give parents the tools to protect their kids, what does the industry do? It cries censorship and files lawsuits. Texas is leading a national movement that every one of us as a parent needs to get behind. Legislatures across the country recognizing that parents already know the digital world does not come with safeguards. No matter what you're told or what you read, it don't. And that companies profiting off of children's attention have no financial incentives to build any of these safeguards. None. The Fifth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals now has an opportunity to affirm something that the Constitution has always granted, that parents, not platforms, hold the first and final authority over their children's lives. Big tech's got lawyers, lobbyists, limitless resources. You got the law, the Constitution, and the truth. And frankly, that should be enough. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. Oh my goodness. Are we building a generation of Scrooge McDucks? You remember Scrooge McDuck? Boomers, which I think is me. I was born in 1958. I'm old as hell. Anyway, I think I'm a boomer. Late boomer. Boomers, is there anything they don't do wrong? Not to hear the millennials, the Zoomers tell it. There isn't. With the big push recently in the mainstream media, today's boomer problem. We are hoarding all the wealth. Not on this side. Somewhere, lefties have this Scrooge McDuck image of wealthy people, and particularly business. Every successful businessman has, of course, a vault full of gold coins and rubies somewhere, and they usually go in there and jump in, go swimming through their riches whenever the fancy strikes. Remember Scrooge McDuck used to do that? Lording it over all the little people. Meanwhile, well-meaning lefties lament the rest of us wouldn't have to work so hard at our six-figure make-work NGO positions if we could just force their vaults open. Lefties always come down to force, but you already knew that. No surprise there. Well, the latest complaint is that millennials and Gen Z can't afford anything or get that big promotion at work because boomers are holding all the houses and all the good jobs. It's our fault. Oh, if you only knew. Boomers, if you read Fortune over the weekend, you might get a little updated. We apparently, quote, are hoarding most of America's wealth and power because they're terrified of outliving their money. Of course, these greedy old hoarders bought back when prices and interest rates were much lower. Left unsaid, millions of boomers and older Gen Xers grew up in the 800 to 1,000 square foot homes the greatest generation thought were basically palaces when they bought them in the late 40s and the 50s. In fact, more than half of the boomers have $250,000 or less in retirement savings. And that's before health shocks, market turndowns, long-term care. Far from being a generation of Scrooge McDucks, most boomers will lean very heavily on Social Security and work income to get by, even into their late 60s and 70s. I'm doing it right now. It's complicated. Dan Gaynor admits to Fox News Opinion a couple weeks ago, I'm a boomer, but say that online today, and it's like admitting to a war crime. The older Gen Xers know the feeling. For months, social media has witnessed a generation gap the size of the Grand Canyon, Gaynor wrote. Many in Gen Z venomously angry at the boomer generation over financial issues, but nothing sets them off more than Shark Tank star Kevin O'Leary, who blamed young people for spending foolishly. Now, the thing is, I'm trying hard not to sound like I just walked through the snow uphill both ways to school, if you know what I mean. The younger generations do spend an awful lot of money on things boomers and Gen Xers either dismiss as frivolous or they simply didn't exist when we were growing up. According to Grok, which didn't exist when I was a kid, a typical Gen Z young adult, listen to this, spends $116 every month on smartphone service and hardware. $116 a month. When I rented my first apartment, I was about 20 years old. I couldn't even afford a landline at first. You know, pick up the phone, spin the rotary dial, say hello. When I did finally get one several months later, I got the lowest possible cost option, which did not include long distance calls. I ate a lot of ramen noodles, baked potatoes, tuna fish. Grubhub was not an option for a 20-year-old earning a part-time small market radio wage, which is what I was making, even if it had been an option. But have faith that the younger generations will figure this stuff out, but not until they have to. That probably requires less largesse on the older folks' part, but less hoarding. Mrs. Vodka Pundit going to be downsizing, freeing up a big house for the younger family. Unbelievable. And it's our fault. We did it. We're all Scrooge McDucks. Oh, man. What else we got going on? Oh, how about this? I love this story because I love J.D. Vance. I'm a big fan. He should be president after Trump is done. The question, are the Vances adding more than just a new baby to their family? As you know, Mrs. J.D. Vance, Usha, are adding a new baby to their family this summer, expected to be born, and it sounds apparently like they're also planning on adding some other new family members, although these will have feathers. The Vance family is joining millions of people across the U.S. who are raising their own backyard flocks of chickens. The vice president of the United States is going to have chickens. I love this. How great is this? More specifically, As of 2025, 11 million is that 11 or 1.1? No, 11 million households in the U.S. have backyard chickens. And apparently we can add the vice president residence of the United States of America at the Naval Observatory to that list. The coop, which is stunning, was built by North Carolina-based family-owned Carolina Coops. It was designed to match the architecture themes of the historic vice president residence. Also worth noting that they were not paid for this with your tax dollars. Do we have a picture of the coop? Yes, we do. Hang on, let me just call it up here. Oh, it's a Facebook post. Oh, God. All right, let me see if I can do this here. Okay, there you go. There you go. And there. Oh, wow. Look at that. Those bottom two pictures. That is one hell of a chicken coop. Holy crap. How nice is that? And you're right, it does kind of fit in with the architecture of the vice president's place. That is a hell of a chicken coop. Don't know how involved the Vance family is in raising the chickens, gathering eggs, but they're pretty on hands in general, so it could be an excellent learning experience for their three older kids, Ewan, Vivek, and Mirabelle, 9, 6, and 4 years old, which is perfect for them, learning about chickens and how they work, raising baby chicks. Absolutely brilliant. A former partner of mine used to have the really fancy, they were like specialty chickens. I forget what they were called, but there were all these weird, beautiful, unbelievable chickens. And each one was a different breed and had different, some had the feathers that came out of their heads like a bad toupee and all kinds of strange colors and weird stuff. Absolutely amazing. Raising your own chickens, by the way, is something promoted by Robert F. Kennedy Jr. He says, Make America Healthy Again movement allows you to replace processed junk in your diet with nutrient-rich foods. It promotes self-reliance over big agriculture and industrial farming. And, as I mentioned, it gives kids something to do outside besides looking at their phone screens all day. I love it. Absolutely brilliant. The vice president and his chickens. Oh, man. Do we have time to do this one? Yeah, let's do this one. Hold on, let me just call it up here. Paste and go. George Orwell. Oh, yeah. Believe it or not, he gave us a warning. What is now 77 years ago. That is a long time. And his warning still has teeth. Orwell's final novel reached readers June 8th, 1949, which makes June 8th, just a couple days ago, the anniversary of 1984. Orwell wrote a lot of the book while fighting an advanced tuberculosis on the cold, lonely Isle of Jura off Scotland. He didn't write from comfort. He wrote from a body breaking down, a mind still sharp enough to see how modern power could crush the individual soul. Orwell's real name was Eric Arthur Blair, but the world knows the pen name because the warning outlived the man. He had seen the Spanish Civil War up close, where fascists and communists both showed exactly how fast, noble words become weapons. His 1946 essay, Why I Write, Orwell said his serious work after 1936 was written against totalitarianism and for democratic socialism as he understood it. Conservatives don't need to share his economics to respect the deeper points that Orwell's hated systems that told people that they were allowed to see, say, remember, and believe. Here's Orwell. What I've wanted to do throughout the past 10 years is make political writing into an art. My starting point is always a feeling of partisanship, a sense of injustice. When I sit down to write a book, I don't say to myself, I'm going to produce a work of art. I write because there is some lie that I want to expose, some fact which I want to draw attention to, and my initial concern is to get a hearing. But I could not do the work of writing a book or even a long magazine article if it were not also an aesthetic experience. Again, this is Orwell. Anyone who cares to examine my work will see that even when it's downright propaganda, it contains much that a full-time politician would consider irrelevant. I'm not able, nor do I want completely to abandon the worldview that I acquired in childhood. So long as I remain alive and well, I will continue to feel strongly about prose style, to love the surface of the earth, and to try to take pleasure in solid objects and scraps of useless information. It's no use trying to suppress that side of myself. The job is to reconcile my ingrained likes and dislikes with essentially public, non-individual activities that this age forces on all of us. Orwell also wrestled with James Burnham's theory of a new managerial ruling class, one less interested in old crowns than in a permanent control through bureaucracy war, organized fear. Early readers knew they'd been handed something very grim and very, very powerful. The first reviews described a frightening book built with force, speed, and moral anger. Literary Hub shared several reviews of Orwell's book. 77 years later, today, conservatives look at 2026 America and they hear that old alarm again. Big Brother doesn't need a telescreen on every wall when phones and apps and platforms and data brokers and federal surveillance authorities already sit in our bloodstream. They're there already. They don't need the telescreens anymore from Orwell's 1984 book. Section 702, Foreign Intelligence Survey Act, remains one of the sharpest fights in Washington because it allows warrantless surveillance aimed at foreigners overseas while raising concerns about America's private conversations, because you know it ain't just going to be at foreigners overseas. Come on. Orwell very, very clearly understood the power of language. Before the age of consent and content moderation, algorithmic reach, newspeak worked because it narrowed thought by narrowing words. Today's version arrives much softer, dressed in institutional language about safety and equality and harm and trust. Some of those words can carry good aims, but they also become dangerous when officials, school corporations, platforms use them to punish plain speech and herd people towards unapproved conclusions. There are things that I say on this show, and because I am simulcast live here on Rumble and here on YouTube, I don't give a shit. I will say what's on my mind. But there are some things on YouTube that will either get bleeped or get me demonetized. There is no free speech on YouTube. Absolutely not. But no surprise, owned by Google, owned by Alphabet. freedom needs witnesses. People willing to say what they see, the truth. Remember what happened, and refuse that daily invitation to trade truth, peace, and liberty for management. Orwell died less than a year after 1984 appeared. His body gave out, but the warnings he wrote about, they keep on walking. 77 years later, still hasn't run out of road. All right. Before we go, I watch a lot of videos because that's kind of my job. And I see a lot of funny videos, and sometimes I bookmark them on X, and I think, oh, this would be funny to end the show with. Let me say it this way. It has been a long time since I have seen a video as funny as this one. And I'm not underplaying this at all. It's very short. It's also, by the way, very real. This is not AI generated. This, when you ask the question, what does a bear do in the woods? Well, yes, as I said, they do that. But they also scratch their backs on trees. Sometimes. Take a look. Okay, play it again, play it again. Missed. Oh, man. If you are listening to this show on the podcast, please, I beg you, I don't even care if you watch the whole show, head over to YouTube or Rumble and go right to the end. It's about 55, 56 minutes into it. Just scroll ahead. I don't mind. I don't care. You want to watch the whole show, great, but you don't have to. You've got to see that video because it is absolutely a classic. And like I said, one of the funniest things I have seen in a very long time. Oh, man. No matter how bad your Wednesday's going, it's got to be going better after that. And I hope the rest of your Wednesday is just as laughable and just as good. We appreciate you being here. Thanks. Don't forget our sponsors. You can also donate directly to the show using our PayPal link. It's safe and secure. You can use your credit card or your bank account and just transfer whatever amount you'd like to help keep the show on the air and keep the lights on. It's the top link in our description down below. Also, of course, Blackout Coffee, Patriot Mobile, Ground News. They're all great sponsors, and they are all right down there. You can find that out in our description. Go buy something, get some deals. All right. We will see you all again tomorrow for another edition of The Jay Sheldon Show. Thanks, folks.